Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Truth Matters and Tom Donahue Reports. And this week's edition, there's just so much going on, and I just have to get to it right away. Wow. Now, you're probably suspecting what I'm going to say, and you're probably right. And let's just jump right into it. Lindsey Graham desperately does damage control after Disney's strolling Magic Kingdom clutching Little Mermaid bubble wand. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is fairy tale theater. We've got fairies, and wait a minute, we haven't even gotten to Kristi Noem's husband. I mean, this is outrageous. I mean, you cannot write these scripts. The Trump world is so bizarre. The cast of characters, Hollywood couldn't even do this justice. So Lindsey Graham, 70 years old, not married, no girlfriends. It's almost that his secret is so open, like Kristi Noem and Lewandowski, that he is a closeted gay. Now, I don't really care, but he's this bloodthirsty armchair warrior sending our men and women, soldiers, into harm's way for an unprovoked war that he, along with Ted Cruz and John McCain in spirit and John Bolton from the Trump administration and the Bushes and the Cheneys and Cheney in spirit and New World Order Bush in spirit, they're all applauding. They love this. And Mark Levin with his arm around Trump. So this new coalition that Trump has formed that's anti-MAGA, that were always never Trumpers, that despise MAGA, that despise America First as isolationist. And so you have Lindsey Graham, who's the leader of the pack, taking on some meetings in Florida, not representing his district, not representing the United States of America, of course. And he's strolling around Disneyland with a Little Mermaid bubble wand. I mean, maybe he was like Matt Gaetz and dressed up for the Barbie movie in pink. Fairy dust theater here. Little fairies, yeah. And again, we're getting to soon. Hang on, Kristi Noem's husband. But this Lindsey Graham has time to play and follow children at Disneyland or Disney World. I get them mixed up. California, Florida, whatever. But let's just say the Disney Children's Complex. Now, I'm not trying to fault people that are into all this amusement and all this diversion and distraction and child's play, but I've been to both. I didn't last very long. Didn't like it. I can't deal with crass commercialism. I just was not comfortable. But here's Lindsey Graham, a 70-year-old little fairy dust boy, wandering around aimlessly. He wasn't there with family members. Oh, that would even be strange because, we're at war because of him in large part. He's not there with a wife because he doesn't have a wife. He wasn't there with friends. He wasn't there with colleagues. There was no meetings taking place at the Disney complex, amusement park, amusement universe. I guess we're just going to call him Fairy Graham with his little wand, a little wannabe fairy. Isn't that just so lovely? Isn't that just sweet, that image? When I heard this being broadcast and being announced, at first I thought maybe this is like, some kind of like satire or some kind of like parody, but no, this is actually, the pictures exist. Then he puts up, I think it was on his Instagram, him firing a rifle, at clay pigeons or something. He's real manly. Yeah, sure he is. Mm-hmm. A man's man, Fairy Graham. Yeah, the Fairy Graham. That's what we should call him. And again, hey, if adult males or females that choose this alternative lifestyle or same sex, whatever, and they're not hurting anybody else, that's their business. But this guy is sending our men and women, our soldiers, our service members into harm's way for no legitimate, justifiable, unprovoked cause. And he's got time to play games at Disney. Fairy Graham. What a human piece of sewage this individual is. NeoCon. But John McCain's probably proud of him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to Kristi Noem's husband. Living a double life as a crossdresser, obsessed with bimbofication, this kinky alternative lifestyle, with gigantic, humongous fake breasts, and not hiding any of this, using his phone, using his devices, his laptop. And so some people were like feeling a little bit sorry for Kristi Noem, like, well, maybe that's kind of why she was having this affair, to be with someone more manly. There's still no justification if you're married. And she's claiming she didn't know about it. So if she had no knowledge of this, which really puts national security at stake because, so easily blackmailable. This is crazy. And I was reporting based on family accounts and friends and colleagues that he was actually, a very good husband and very loyal and dedicated Christian. And it gets just crazier and crazier. So yeah, her husband is a crossdresser and pays bimbo models, cross-dressing, so he wants to be that. He wants to become that. And I guess he was getting some kind of training and counsel and mentorship besides having fun and games. So we got two fairies. So maybe Lindsey Graham can meet up with Kristi Noem's husband and have a good old time. Wouldn't you like that, Fairy Graham? But yeah, you see pictures of Brian Noem. He just seemed like an all-American. He looked like someone that may have been a quarterback at one time, played football. I don't know. So Kristi Noem, my gosh. She was fired. She's been disgraced. So much shame on her professional conduct and then her personal life in terms of having this more than alleged affair. But apparently her husband paid thousands of dollars in payments to these sex workers. That's what they're calling them in these articles, sex workers, fetish models. So he lavished praise on their surgically enhanced bodies and confessed his lust for these huge, ridiculously humongous fake boobs. And even made indiscreet remarks about his 34-year marriage to the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Now, I'm just going to say something, and again, I don't want to get into all the, I try not to talk about things in a sexualized way, but I like women that are more natural, that they're not surgically enhanced as he's looking for. I don't want giant melons or balloons. So that's just my personal taste, and I like the fact that however the Creator gave us these vessels, that we pretty much stick to that, okay? So this is getting more and more bizarre by the moment. Trump's completely, insane and going off the deep end and has, a million different reasons and justifications for this war and has different names for it. And in our next segment, we're going to get to Trump's insane war, and his polling numbers keep getting worse and worse. Now, could they recover a little bit after this war gets wrapped up to whatever degree, the withdrawal, the surrender, because that's what it's going to be. Even though you bomb the living daylights out of that country, if they haven't surrendered, then that means you've surrendered and you've backed off. Now, I even if it means that, I'm okay with that because I don't want to see any more people die. I don't want to see any more bloodshed and heartache. But anyway, it just keeps getting worse and worse for Trump. More and more people are bailing on him. Even Alex Jones, who had access and tried to cover for him to some degree, not to the degree of Mark Levin or Sean Hannity, but he was one of the last holdouts in the alternative media field, podcasting and social media and streaming. And he finally threw in the towel. Enough is enough. I'm going to tease a couple things here. Now, this was the headline from InfoWars, from other sites that picked up on this. Alex Jones, and I actually heard him say it on the air. because I was curious. Alex Jones says it's time to cut bait on Trump because the president is in free fall. So he's telling people he's done. It's over. It's time to start looking for alternatives to Trump and see if they can salvage the midterms. And then, of course, gearing up for 2028. Tucker Carlson accuses Trump of caving to Mark Levin's dominance, a form of sadomasochism. Yeah, this is wild stuff. But Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, these people are never going to recover from the core base of the patriot, freedom, constitutional truth movements, even though they were always held to some degree of skepticism. They're finished. I mean, they only have mainstream Republican conservatives. That's it. The people that got Trump elected, most MAGA folks, most Tea Partiers, they're gone. They're out of there. They know the truth. Mark Levin, a neocon, Dan Bongino, a neocon. So I've named many of the neocons, and the fact is that they have conned us. They're so-called neoconservatism. Yeah, it's a nice little term, right? Yeah. Okay, more to come. Hold tight. Right back.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Conspiracy Radio, the new streaming station offering shows only from this unique, compelling genre. They don't want you to know, but we do. Conspiracy Radio, formerly Patriot Radio Classics, is now streaming 24/7 with the greatest conspiracy radio programs from past and present. Political to the paranormal cover-ups, conspiracies exposed. From legendary past hosts to groundbreaking present-day popular shows. Listen 24/7 online at conspiracyradio.net or download the apps at TalkStream Live, TalkStreamLive.com. Visit conspiracyradio.net. That's conspiracyradio.net. Conspiracy Radio. Follow the evidence. Question everything.
For every puppy purchased from a pet store or a breeder, a homeless dog at an animal shelter loses the chance of ever going for a romp in the park, chasing a ball, or feeling secure in a real home. Dogs and cats in shelters are waiting for someone kind to come along. So if you or anyone you know is ready for the responsibility of giving an animal a lifelong home full of patience, understanding, and respect, please adopt, don't shop. Visit PETA.org to learn more.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
You're listening to Truth Matters with Tom Donahue and Angeline Marie as we shed light and insight on the prevailing controversies, cover-ups, and conspiracies. We cover the political, cultural, monetary, media, and health sectors. Now, back to the show. Okay, we are back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. So glad you can be with us. And in this segment, this portion of the program, we're going to go back to Trump, the madman. And there is an actual headline that talks about, and again, I haven't delved too deeply, but it says Trump's strategy with Iran is the madman theory. And it was something about being crazy and being erratic and unpredictable. And so that's how he's dealing with Iran. But the problem here, from my vantage point, is that he is a madman. And he's always been erratic and irrational and unpredictable. Look at that for yourself. It was on Drudge. It was on some other websites as well. And I do have it posted. And when I talk about most of these headlines, you can find them. And they're saved for at least, I think, 3 months at TalkStreamLive.com under news headlines. And you can open up from the top 10 or the most recent 10, and it'll take you, to many, many previous days and weeks. So I use these as the talking points or reference points to guide me through most of these shows and podcast and broadcast. Okay. Now, Easter weekend, Trump decided to be crude and lewd and profane, which is not unusual, but on Easter weekend and referring to his war, and it is Trump's war, Trump and Israel's war, Trump drops the F-bomb and says praise to Allah in the wildest social media rant and post yet. Yuck. Trump doubles down on the Iran threat after his shocking post. If there's no deal, then we're blowing up the whole country. So Trump is letting us know he is a wartime criminal, war crimes. He's already announcing, although there's already, the bombing of the girls' school, and it wasn't just collateral damage. So we have a war criminal essentially destroying the world. Now, this is what Margie Taylor Greene, MTG, had to say. He's gone insane. Absolutely bludgeons Trump in fiery reaction to the president's evil threat against Iran. Margie Taylor Greene rails against the insane Trump after Easter Iran threat. Media pundits from Stephen A. Smith to Alex Jones slam Trump's F-bomb threat to Iran. This is a clown show. Iran dismisses Trump's expletive-filled threat over the Strait of Hormuz. Trump was confronted after Easter weekend about his profane threat to Iran. Why did you use such vulgar language? Trump gives war update to children while flanked by the Easter bunny. Children, he says things to kids that, and he's had children, and he has been, he is a father and a grandfather, and which makes no sense, the way he says certain things that are not age appropriate, okay? But that's Trump. Now, I did want to make one mention that when it comes to Easter, which I know is referenced just once in the Bible, we're talking about the death and resurrection of the Son of God, the Creator God, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, and I absolutely believe he rose from the dead and he died for our sins, and I have no qualms in my voicing my beliefs. And if it offends someone, well, so be it. Then get the flack out of here. And I said flack. I don't use vulgarity. Could there be an occasional word that is edgy? Possibly. But I really try to guard myself. And here we got the President of the United States that is dropping F-bombs. He's as bad as some of these talk show hosts and podcasters say, oh, we can get away with it because the FCC's not regulating us. Why don't you have your own moral conscience and compass regulate your language? It doesn't make you sound any smarter or any cooler to use profanity and vulgarity. That's just the way I see it. But yeah, Easter, S-Star, the fertility god, bunny rabbits, we got to make it really nice for the kids. Well, hopefully, if you're Christian parents, you're telling your children that the emphasis should not be on Santa Claus at Christmas and bunnies and candy at Easter. So I typically, although I really don't try to preach to people. Maybe here I do, but my personal dealings and even professional dealings, I will usually say Resurrection Day because I want to celebrate the resurrection, okay? And so I try to use the proper terms. So we're having military aircraft shot down. We have rescue missions in, and thankfully, brave service members and soldiers and special teams have been able to do these successful recoveries. And I just think that I celebrate the recovery of life, but this destruction and demolition that's unprovoked is unconscionable. And I'm going to say something else that I know will offend some people. But whether you look at Bush, Cheney, well, the two Bushes, Trump now, Clinton, Biden, Obama, those leaders, elected leaders that decided to betray our interests and the interests of the world and to kill people, to murder people, I should say. And it is murder, mass destruction in many instances. Where do you think you're going? Speaking of the holidays and Easter, and there's not going to be a resurrection, okay, in my view, my vantage point, okay? I believe, unless it's self-defense, that these men, and they are men because we don't have presidential leadership that have been female, they will be in the fiery pit, okay? They're irredeemable in my view, although I'll leave that up to the Creator God, okay? Yahweh, Jehovah God. And so I know that I try to typically not get too heavy into, my philosophy or my theology or my religious beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, but there are times that I need to not only reflect, but also share because it is relevant to the discussion. So yes, I do believe that many of these folks, and I think you can put Mark Levin in this category because of his push for this. You can put Fairy Graham in this category. You can put Ben Shapiro in this category. You can put many others that if you are provoking leadership to take aggressive military intervention that results in the death of innocent people, not just the soldiers, but innocent people, innocent lives. Well, I think you need to be held in account, and I believe the Creator God will. That's just my outlook, my view. I'm entitled to it, whether right or wrong, but I'm sharing that with you because these are heartfelt views and emotions that I feel are necessary so you know where I stand, because I do take a stand. And I try to the best of my ability to tell the truth as I know it, but I'm always open to input and ideas and information that I may not been aware of or been made aware of. So, but my foundational viewpoints, philosophy, ideology, the core values are resolute and have been ingrained and with a firm foundation. More to come on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening to Truth Matters. We are back. Tom Donahue. Truth matters. It really does matter here. So glad you're with us. Putting America first, New World Order dead last. And I have a gazillion zingers and one-liners and some name tags, and I'm going to get to a few of them. I just can't help it. Now, a little good news tonight as I'm recording. It looks like Trump and Iran backed off. There is an apparent or a seeming ceasefire at the moment, although there are missiles going into Israel. There's still a little bit confusing, a little bit hazy as to the details. But prior to that, we had Dangerous Don, Tyrant Trump, Diabolical, Demented Trump. And it's not just me saying it. There's a lot of people saying it, maybe not in quite the same name tags or phraseology, but they're using terms like Madman, unhinged, losing his mind. But some of these tweets, and I talked about that in the prior segment, and these declarations that Trump puts out there with the F-bomb. And I mean, it's just over the top. It's just way too much, highly offensive to many. And people just keep looking the other way. He's the guy that just grab them by the, Trump told us who he was, a degenerate reprobate. I mean, there's just no getting around that. Yeah, but he was going to do the things we want in terms of policy, and he had plans that included us and incorporated our ideas and our ideology. And yeah, look at how far that's gotten us. But Marjorie Taylor Greene put out her social media post saying 25th Amendment, 3 exclamation points, and calls for Trump's removal from office. More than 50 congressional Democrats were calling for Trump's immediate removal. I've seen countless reels and posts from various influencers, various former politicians. Some of them are current politicians saying that the 25th Amendment has to be enacted. Some have even encouraged the generals and military to not obey these orders. And we're talking about a genocidal, homicidal maniac in the office. When you're calling for the complete destruction of a country, the obliteration of a country, well, I thought we were supposed to be trying to help those people. Well, not so much if you anger Trump. If Trump doesn't get the deal that he wants, if he's not able to take what he wants, vengeance is Trump's, say the Trumpster. But there are no guardrails. And Trump has got his loyalists and his protectors. Yeah, so it's shameful that people are more concerned about protecting a person, protecting a policy, protecting a party, and not the principles. Remember, every service member, every soldier, every politician in elective office, or even if they're sworn in and they're been appointed, their allegiance is to the Constitution and being faithful to that, not to any person or position or policy. Now, a prominent House Democrat credits Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene with pushing Trump towards a ceasefire. Now, there has been tremendous blowback, except for the apologists and the protectors of Trump, like Levin and Hannity and the Fox Follies, Newsmax and OAN and, Real America's Voice. They all want the protective cover over Trump. I'm telling you, if Biden did any of these things, there would be calls for his ouster. There would be major protestation. And talk radio would not be nonstop anti-war, anti-Biden, anti-administration. And because it's Trump, we're going to go along with Fairy Graham. Where's your little wand, Fairy Graham? But Trump warned that a whole civilization could die in Iran. Trump's openly genocidal threat ignites global panic. Military needs to revolt, according to the Raw story. Trump threatened destruction of the power plants, which would be considered a war crime. Alex Jones also called for the removal of Trump. He goes, how do we 25th Amendment him? Now, it was Pakistan that apparently brokered this deal for the ceasefire. Now, depending on, there's going to be another segment I'm going to record. Some people would say, well, don't tell them you're recording and make it look like it's live. And believe me, I don't do retakes. I do slight edits just to make sure that everything is formatted. Other than that, it's as close to being live as possible. And that's just the way I do things. But yeah, I don't mind letting you guys in on how we do things. And, there's just nothing to hide. I'm an open book. I mean, I believe in privacy, personal privacy. But there's nothing to be private about in terms of whether you record something or you're in a live studio or any of that. Oh, and speaking of that, I decided, it's been delayed because I didn't really quite understand the process, but the technology is there where you can actually have YouTube, through your YouTube channel, they can use your RSS feed from your podcast, and they will upload and translate or convert into a video featured podcast, which, in terms of the original podcast, you're not going to see me moving and talking. But rather than trying to use some kind of converter yourself. And so right now I guess there's well over 100 that have been uploaded, and there's many, many more to go. So they get such a heavy influx that if you have a lot of podcasts on your RSS feed, it may take days before all of them are uploaded and converted, which, that's fine. But I did notice that I didn't get any strikes, but there have been some cautionary notes in terms of the podcasts that went up. Some of the material, they said, may not be eligible for airing in certain regions or countries. So, whatever, I'm not worried about it. I want to use YouTube just because of the outreach. There might be people that are not listening on all the different podcast platforms or radio stations or TalkStream Live. And so let me just tell you, at the moment, it's just labeled or named Tom Donahue Reports at Truth Matters Radio is the handle. So I'll probably try to emphasize the Truth Matters, but I've been Tom Donahue Reports, and that's, of course, my name. I just love all these radio and TV people that have to change their names. Now, I know some of their last names are a little embarrassing. It may not be one's cup of tea, but I never thought about using a stage name, AKA whatever. I just wasn't going to do it. I just wanted to be as authentic and as real and as what you see is what you get or what you hear as I possibly can be. So anyway, with all that backstory and more on the whole Madman Trump, and the fact is that there's a little reprieve here, a little bit of good news. So, praise be God, for that. We'll be back with our final segment. Hold tight, right back.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Conspiracy Radio, the new streaming station offering shows only from this unique, compelling genre. They don't want you to know, but we do. Conspiracy Radio, formerly Patriot Radio Classics, is now streaming 24/7 with the greatest conspiracy radio programs from past and present. Political to the paranormal cover-ups, conspiracies exposed. From legendary past hosts to groundbreaking present-day popular shows. Listen 24/7 online at conspiracyradio.net or download the apps at TalkStream Live, TalkStreamLive.com. Visit conspiracyradio.net. That's conspiracyradio.net. Conspiracy Radio. Follow the evidence. Question everything.
For every puppy purchased from a pet store or a breeder, a homeless dog at an animal shelter loses the chance of ever going for a romp in the park, chasing a ball, or feeling secure in a real home. Dogs and cats in shelters are waiting for someone kind to come along. So if you or anyone you know is ready for the responsibility of giving an animal a lifelong home full of patience, understanding, and respect, please adopt, don't shop. Visit PETA.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters, Tom Donahue Reports. So glad you're with us for the final stretch here. And looking at some of the news headlines, and there's some intriguing ones that dovetail with what we've talked about so far. Ceasefire is threatened as Israel expands Lebanon strikes and Iran closes the strait again. Didn't even last 12 hours. Top Iranian official accuses the U.S. of 3 ceasefire violations and contradicting Trump's claim. House Democrat Ro Khanna credits Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene with pushing Trump towards ceasefire. Now, I'd have to throw in there Alex Jones and Candace Owens and others, but even though this might be a brief pause or reprieve, it's worth the effort. It's worth the earnest effort. And I thank them for their efforts as it relates to stopping the Madman from genocidal devastation and obliteration of a civilization that he actually expressed in his social media post. Trump's dash for an off-ramp in the Iran war fuels fears of strategic defeat. Trump's Iran war is failing, and Fox News won't admit it. Well, they're not going to admit it because they're cover-up artists. They'll be Johnny-come-latelys. Now, bear in mind, I talked about the 25th Amendment. I talked about impeaching Trump. I talked about Trump's removal many, many months ago because the crimes are piling up. And I've always exposed those. Now, I want to be real clear here. Those of you that are new listening, I voted for Trump twice, could not in good conscience vote a third time for Trump. I talked about my reservations about Trump, but I had no clue that he would become a neocon. I had no clue that he would do a full 180, a complete reversal of everything he promised, everything he committed to, everything we thought he stood for. See, that's the difference when you have a solid foundation that you've built your philosophy, your ideology, your spiritual beliefs on, like, a Rock of Gibraltar, then you're unwavering. I have people that say, Tom, I listened to you on cassette tapes or on shortwave or on radio 3 decades ago, and you sound nearly the same. Well, it's true, because my belief system has not changed. So having a firm footing in a foundation that's solid as a rock, you don't waver, you don't falter. So when I see, the Never Trumpers, and they joined the Trump train, and then now some of them that had access to the Trump administration and that they felt like they had some rapport with Trump and the Trump administration, they were hesitant to pull the plug. Well, I'm glad that I don't have that access, and I'm glad that I don't have that rapport, because even if I did, I would still pull the plug as soon as I saw the damage that was being done. So some of these folks are like accessories after the crime because they waited this long to blow the whistle. I've been a whistleblower, if you will, metaphorically speaking, all along, because as a town crier, as someone that sheds light and insight on these matters, I can only tell the truth to the best of my ability. And even if it's authors or politicians or people that I like or that I respect, if they're on the wrong track, if they're not following the Constitution, if they're not really putting our nation's interests first, I'm going to call them out. But nevertheless, even if you're late to exposing and opposing, as you seemingly are, many of you, I still welcome you. I still applaud you, because it's never too late. You're late, but it's not too late to do the right thing. And so that's the way I see it. And some people say, well, Democrats are saying some of these same things on podcasts and YouTube and all that. I don't care what they're saying. And yes, there are times that people, with differing views on a lot of things come together. You might not be arm in arm, but you're working towards certain or similar goals. But that doesn't make me a Democrat, because I've never voted Democrat. It doesn't make me a liberal or progressive, because I never have and never will be. But that's not to say that they can't be right on some issues. It doesn't mean that we cannot. Remember, if we're all part of the United States of America, I don't hate people that have differing views. I don't try to censor their views. I will debate in those views. And that's what I liked about Charlie Kirk, was he gave a platform for those things. And when I started America's Town Forum, America First radio back locally in 1990 and then 91 in syndication, I never screened calls. Matter of fact, I always told the producers, and the board operators, that the only thing they could ask is, what do you want to be called, in terms of what is your name and where are you calling from? I never did a Larry King, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, hello. No, they have a name, and I don't care, if you want to use an AKA, you want to, some people have like a radio tag name. I don't care. As long as I can interact with you and call you something. And the other thing that that I appreciated in the listener participation as in calling was I wanted you to be on equal footing, which meant that I didn't want to know what you were going to ask. I didn't want to know what you would say. I didn't want to be, more prepared than you and have my response or rebuttal. So it was a natural flow. It was a fair fight, if you will. And so many times there were callers that were in agreement, and I didn't mind those differing views. I didn't mind being contested. All I asked for in any, listener that would call was I was hoping that you'd be an informed listener, meaning that you're not just blowing off steam, although you can do that, but have a point of view and have some evidence or some something that you can refer to or something that you're basing your opinions and your ideas on, so that we can have a fruitful and interesting and substantive conversation and discussion. So yeah, an informed listener really was important to me, but I wouldn't demean or diminish them based on the fact that maybe they had less education or maybe they didn't quite do as much research, because back then there wasn't the internet, although that can be a fountain of disinformation too. But if you're a good researcher and you figure out what the preponderance of evidence is and what the sources are, and you can come closer to the truth. Didn't mean to get on such a tangent and bypass the subject at hand, but I want to share with you, a lot of my experiences and my thoughts as it relates to the forum, which is talk radio, which is podcasting, which is streaming, the way that programs are put together and delivered. So I do like to focus on media matters, not that organization. Health matters, political matters, and of course, truth always matters, and all those things, and financial matters as well. So, I'm going to have like some specialized segments coming up. I got a lot of interesting ideas on where we're going with this program, and I see this as a teaching tool. I know that some people might think that, well, I feel like I'm in a lecture hall. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. So many shows, it's just chit-chatting. Just like when they say, oh, let's just text about that. Well, texting serves a purpose, but if that's your main form of communication, it's so impersonal, it can be so easily misunderstood, and it's usually littered with these little abbreviations and with misspellings, and some people type and read faster or slower. I think that things need to be more personalized, and so I see this as a teaching tool. I see this as a means of informing, educating, and sharing, because I do have, a little bit of experience, and I do have my own set of ideas and things that I feel like I want to accomplish, and I want to get out there. And so I want to be able to address those things. Yeah, I'm doing things a little different than your typical talk show. And I'm not just here pontificating. I will give you a lot of information, a lot of documentation. But yes, there is some opinion and there's a point of view. Don't shy away from that. So I just wanted to share those things. Back to news headlines. Mark Levin, the master neocon of the talk radio world, he issues a grave warning amidst Trump-Iran ceasefire. Yeah, he wants to kill, baby, kill. Slaughter, baby, slaughter. Annihilate an entire nation. Thanks, neocon. And Sean Hannity just, like a mini bopper with his head just up and down. Yeah, that's a real educated moron. He's the one that named Mark Levin the Great One. What's great about him? Nothing. Nada. Then you have Bill Cunningham on Sunday nights. Remember he got into the Jerry Springer type talk show at one point. That's how serious he was. That's not to say that these people don't do some good things. But Bill Cunningham said, "Oh, I'm a great American." No, you're not a great American. That's your opinion. I mean, these people that pose as like Trump in terms of egotism and narcissism and self-inflated views and vision of who they are and what they represent is absolutely, completely nonsensical. Yeah, so does that tick me off? Yeah, it does. Another article I wanted to point out before we exit here this week. This was from Axios, MAGA media and its great unraveling. And it talks about the MAGA media, whether it's the influencers, whether it's the talk show hosts, whether it's the YouTube or the Rumble, it really is a royal rumble. It is so splintered. And I remember hearing certain hosts saying, oh, the MAGA movement's not splintered, and it's just very minor. No, you cannot put enough Band-Aids on the fractures, the fixtures of this movement that is absolutely, the wounds are far and wide and deep. But that article you can find at Axios, and many of these articles that I'm pointing to, that I'm sharing with you, I do post as a news editor the news headlines at TalkStream Live, Talk Right, and the other genre channels through the Stream Live. So I do want to point out that, as I mentioned in the prior segment, that these podcasts, these shows are now going to start appearing on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Tom Donahue Reports, handle Truth Matters Radio. You can always go to TomDonahueReports.com. We also have the website truthmattersradio.net. And I want to applaud Angeline and her fine work with Conspiracy Radio, conspiracyradio.net. And so let's keep our nation, let's keep the world in our prayers as it relates to this megalomaniac, this genocidal, unhinged maniac that's occupying the office, the high office, the White House, although he's in demolition mode, wanting to knock down all kinds of things and build things, and more worried about those blueprints than he is blowing up the world. Everything he touches, he wants to just blow up, or redefine in his own image, rename things, put his name on this. And, I've had it. I mean, I am just, and you say, well, what about the Democrats? Or what about J.D. Vance? Well, we'll take each one of them on one by one. Okay. If you're not following the Constitution, the whole thing is that, there is no political savior. And Trump has proved that unless we have guardrails, unless we hold them, in check, they could undermine us. They could betray us. They could flip on us. And so regardless of whomever occupies, the high office next go around, we have to, hold their feet to the fire as well. Anyway, that's it for this week. Tom Donahue Reports, Truth Matters. Have a great week.